For our skill builder today, we are going to be learning different techniques that we can use with markers. So we all know how to color with markers, but we're going to learn a couple of kind of special techniques that we can do to make our artwork pop when we use our markers. So the first technique is color like an artist. So when we color like an artist, let's pretend we're coloring in a shape like a circle. Okay, we want to make sure we color nice and slow. We want to color back and forth and try to do our best to stay inside of those lines. If we get a little bit outside the line, that's okay. Not a big deal. Okay, for trickier shapes, like let's do this blob shape. Sometimes I like to color around the outside edges first because that's the tricky part. That's where it's hard to stay inside the lines, is around the edges. Okay, and then after you color the edges, then you can go back in and fill in the inside. Again, going back and forth. That's gonna make our artwork look as best as it can. Okay, our next technique is layers. I'll use the same green marker. Markers are kind of cool because you can put layers on top of each other to make it darker. So for example, if I do one layer, we have kind of a light green. If I use the same color and color again on top, it's going to get a little bit darker. If I add a third layer, okay, it's going to even get darker. Okay. So now you can see with different layers, I have kind of a light green, a couple medium greens, and a dark green. We can also layer different colors on top of each other too. So if you're gonna layer different colors, I would start with a light color first. So yellow is a light color. So I'm gonna color a yellow circle first, back and forth, staying inside the lines. Then I'm going to get another color to layer on top of it. So I'm going to do this peach color. I think I'm going to do just another circle on top. When you layer colors on top of other colors, it's going to change their color a little bit, because this peach that normally looks like this kind of looks a little orange when you put it on top of yellow. I'm going to use another color. I'm going to use an orange. Okay. So again, that's what the orange looks like normally. Kind of changes a little bit, almost looks a little red on there. Okay, so you can layer colors on top of each other. If you start to layer too much, your paper might start to fall apart. You can see mine starting to fall apart a little bit. So just be careful not to do too many layers. Okay, our next technique is details. Okay, so when we're drawing with markers, we want to add details. Okay, so for example, if I'm drawing a flower, I'm coloring a flower. Let's use pink in the middle and orange on the outside. That looks nice, right? Okay, but what if I added details to it? So maybe I'm going to take this peach color again and color in the inside of the flower with a different color. That's a great detail. Maybe I want to take a darker color and I want to add little dots around the center of the flower, and maybe on the inside too, to kind of make it look like pollen, like a real flower. Maybe I want to take a darker color and outline the edges like that, and put another one out in the middle. Okay, doesn't that look so much better? Looks so much better than that plain flower. So really take your time, add some details, lines, shapes, different patterns, add those layers like we did up here to really make your artwork stand out. Okay, our last technique for markers is adding texture. So let's pretend, for example, we have like a fish, okay, and a fish has scales. Okay, so instead of just coloring, let's pretend we have a yellow fish. Instead of just coloring our fish yellow like this, okay, what if we added some texture on, and we can do texture just by adding some different lines. Okay, so I'm going to add some green lines first. So again, we're kind of doing more layers. They kind of have a different texture on their tail. So add some straight lines. Okay, adding those textures again is going to make our artwork pop. Let's see, another way to add texture is like if you're doing hair or fur, you can do lots of lines kind of close to each other, on top of each other like this. So that's going to look like long hair. Okay, maybe you have like short hair. Or even these kind of look like spikes on top of a hedgehog or a porcupine. Okay, maybe you want to do like a curly texture. I'm thinking like clown hair on top of a clown's head. Okay, so you can add lots of curly lines on top of each other. So think about the texture of things, how they feel, and how you can use lines to make the marker look like that. Okay, so those are some different techniques you can use for markers. This is not all of them though. You can also just kind of experiment on your own and make your own techniques for markers. That's all.